OCO, are you old as up? Welcome to the Red Road East. I'm your host, Fierce Truth Seeker. And I want to start off by apologizing to anyone who has been offended by anything that I've said. I've been reading the comments, and some people express that I'm coming down too hard on people and stuff like that. And I apologize if I come across that way. What you got to understand about me is that every day people comment on my videos. Some good, some ridiculous. Okay? Many of you who are following me now know me from television. Okay? But this is not my first YouTube channel. There's some of you out there who know me before the TV show. Okay? Before the Red Road East. Okay? And as I stated before, you all have no idea what I've been through. Okay? I went years without ever commenting, about replies from viewers. And every day I would get flooded, okay, inundated with hate comments. Okay, again, y'all who are just coming in the movement, y'all have it good, because it was a lot worse, because there was once a time when we had to put up with a whole lot from mongoloids. Okay, and I say mongoloids not to be offensive. Anthropologically speaking, that's what they call the quote-unquote Indians with the Hollywood stereotypical look of the Plains Indians. Okay, every day I get hate mail, hate comments. Okay, and I'm gonna, once I learn this new technology on the computer a little better, once I learn how to have guests on here, I'm going to have people who were around during that time to bear witness to what I'm saying. And back in the days, it was not easy for those who have copper color, who practiced their indigenous culture or their aboriginal culture. Okay, you have no idea the level of racism. Okay, and so all of this rage that I have is from years and years and years and years and years. Okay, so then to have the same kind of things, same kind of comments, well, not the same subject matter, but the same level of ignorance and hate coming from those who claim to be copper-colored aborigines, it makes it even worse. Okay? See, back in the days, see, I would have to deal with not only the Mongoloids, but also those who call themselves Black Indians. Okay, because you guys didn't want to hear that we are aboriginal to the land. Okay, y'all didn't want to hear that back in the days. Okay, you guys wanted to be runaway African slaves who mixed in with the Mongoloids. Okay, and who were slaves of the Mongoloids. You see what I'm saying? And it wasn't until after the Moors started dropping this knowledge that everybody else started jumping on the bandwagon. Okay, a lot of you who, you know, claim to the whole Indian thing jumped on the bandwagon after the Moors started coming out with this information. So I know because I was there. All right. And again, it's not to say that there were not individuals in our families and stuff like that who knew that we were from this land and stuff like that. I'm not talking about individuals, okay? But those people in your family and stuff like that, they were nowhere to be seen. They were nowhere on the scene, okay? They were not putting out literature. They were not on the lecture circuit, okay? So that argument is moot, all right? So I just want to apologize for my tone, okay? And I appreciate the constructive criticism in the comments section. Okay, I appreciate that. And before I started this video, I started doing some deep breathing. Okay, and trying not to let things get me worked up. But I just want to give you all an idea of what I have to deal with. Let me see here. Wait a minute. Let's take a look. Mind the time also. Let's take a look in the comments section. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find some of these comments. I'm not going to read the ones that we went over already. I'm looking for some of the new comments. Okay, now on this video. This is number 1. So, number 2 is what we, you know, okay, now on this video. Let's see. Okay, like one particular comment, BVE. Give the information, and this is on part 4, the last video. BVE. Give the information out so we can read and be on the same page. Okay? And this is why I get angry, is because this is part 4 in this series. And all I've been doing, I've been giving a whole slide presentation. Okay? All right, we're up to slide. We left off at slide 35. Okay, we left off at slide 35. So I've given you 35 slides, a PowerPoint presentation. Okay? Giving you documentation and sources where you can look up. And I get a comment saying to give the information so you can be on the same page. Okay? And I mean, it just makes you wonder, you know, I mean, wouldn't it make you wonder if you're just wasting your time? If you took, it takes a long time to put together a PowerPoint presentation. And I'm giving you like somewhere around 70 slides of information. That takes time. That takes a lot of time. So for someone to say, give the information so that they can follow, wouldn't you be upset? But BVE, I apologize if I said anything to offend you. But what I'm asking of you is, if you're just tuning in the middle, and your first time looking at this presentation is at part 4, what I'm asking you to do is go back and look at the previous ones, okay? And then go from there, okay? Look at the previous YouTube clips. But if you, I said it in the last, I said it in the last show. If you're, and I even wrote it on the video description, I said if you're just looking at this on this part, it's going to be hard to follow because this is part 4, okay, of a series. So, and then BVE says, you have an unwanted anger problem. Who wants someone yelling and screaming at them? Who the hell is you? You are not educated, screaming at your viewers. A teacher finds a way to explain in a meaningful manner. Okay? Yes, I am educated. Okay? I hold a bachelor's degree. Okay? So, yes, I am educated. And getting ready to go for my master's. All right? So, and I apologize if my reply to your statement offends you. Let me see. My reply was, well, who the hell is you? You're not educated. Who wants someone screaming, blah, 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 blah. And I replied, because idiots like you keep leaving stupid comments in my comment section. If you don't like it, go to another channel. Okay? Yeah, that is rather harsh. But as I just explained, it's just upsetting when you take your time to present all of this information and give the resources and references for someone to say, give the information so that we can read and be on the same page. All right? So, and now I have another idiot. Another idiot trolling me. Jeff Aholics. Okay? And this is why I get mad. Jeff Aholics. Right. So, I'm assuming he's a mongoloid.
After a day on the lake, you just want to get home.
Okay, so a lot of people had a problem when I had this particular elder on the show about the Cherokee language and culture. A lot of mongoloids got upset. So here's another mongoloid who's trolling. And I had to put him in his place. Let's see here. Find his comments. Okay, so he says, So he's going back and forth with this guy named autochthonous being. Okay. And autochthonous being is trying to tell him that we're aboriginal to the land, this, that, and the other. And Jeff Aholics is saying, call, okay, so autochthonous being said, let me see where it started at. He says, and he's chiming in with this troll who I was going back and forth with a while ago. This was like almost a year ago. Filthy Man 2100. Okay, it's really Filter Man, but I call him Filthy Man. All right, and so he's chiming in with Filthy Man, and he says this appears to be a channel where Afrocentric people make some far out bogus claims, claiming that Black Americans are the real Native Americans. And it's right here. If you look on the screen, you can see. Let me try to make this, see if I can make this a little bigger. Well, I don't want to mess with it, so I might mess something up. But anyway, they attempt to substantiate their claims by quoting obscure, unverified sources, then call you a racist for not believing in their veracity. They love to throw out the name Walter Plecker, a racist Virginian politician, grossly exaggerate his influence and try to argue that he somehow affected a grand international historical conspiracy. Basically, these people are not worth arguing with because there are no shared parameters on which even to build a discussion. Sadly, it appears that they will continue to wallow in their delusions. I do not want to mention, however, that plenty of legitimate Native Americans do have African and European admixture due to intermarriage and assimilation. Although they may be racially mixed, they are culturally whatever tribe they are from. A good example is Quanah Parker, obviously legitimate members of Native American nations that have European or African admixture don't subscribe at all to the theories of these Afrocentric kooks. Okay? And so again, he's quoting from someone who goes under the designation of uh, Black Indians, product of runaway African slaves and Mongoloid Indians. See, that's proof right there. I don't even have to argue. Okay, I did I not tell you that the copper colored people who were claiming to be Indian back in the days, they were all saying that? Okay, and this is someone who he says is tribally affiliated. Okay, and I told you that's the position that they take and took. All right. But this is why I get mad. Okay, because of comments like this. And based on the name, he's not even on, this isn't even a Mongoloid. Jeff Aholics, okay? Most likely this is a Caucasian. You know, a lot of Caucasians, they want to be Indian so bad. So anytime any of us who are copper colored let people know that we're indigenous, they have a problem with that. Okay? So, autochthonous being and him were going back and forth. All right? So, I chimed in and I said, that is bullish. And you know it. You have no evidence to prove otherwise. Mongoloids do not predate Lucia. Okay, and he had a problem with that. He comes back and says the Red Road East, yeah, it's all fake, except for the 4 or 5 pamphlets written by no-name conspiracy theorists from fake universities. You believe in science only when you want to. Show some respect to the actual natives of the continent you live on. Y'all wonder why I get upset? Okay? I get this type of stuff all day, all night. Okay? It became so much at one time. I'm the type of person who never deleted comments. You know, I just let everything rock so that the people, you know, can see, you know, what the dialogue is and, you know, what people think out there, what the, you know, what the thought is, you know, among viewers and stuff like that. But it just became so ridiculous, you know, till I just had to start deleting comments, you know, and blocking certain people because they just kept on. It just, you know, to the point where, you know, because you want to hear from legitimate people, not trolls. You know, you want feedback, you know, from people who actually have something to say, something that makes sense. Okay? And now I'm getting a little ahead of myself because I wanted to deal with some of that too. Dealing with before the Red Road East, before this particular channel that I have. Um, so I replied back to him. I said, "This proves what a effing moron you are. You don't even know where the information comes from, obviously. But you just said, no, I said, yeah, but what you just said is 100% bullish. And I'm not gonna say the curse. And it proves that you are ignorant of anthropology because he is, you know, making statements like that. Obviously, he doesn't read. And so he had a chance to Google my reply, of course. And he says Lucia was born in South America, by the way, and later tests determined her to be most closely related to American Indians. So I replied, since you had a chance to Google it, you can also Google the fact that the anthropologist stated that the skulls were not mongoloid. You can't change that, fool. Okay? And here's another comment. The Red Road East. Your language really speaks volumes about your character and your education levels. No, it does not. I have a degree. You don't. You shouldn't really talk about anthropology when your entire arguments are based on pseudoscience. But who you are. No, be who you are. Stop coveting others' bloodlines. This is an idiot. Okay, first of all, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, my education levels. This idiot doesn't even know my education level. Okay, and he makes a lot of assumptions. We all know what happens when you assume, what you make out of yourself. Okay, based on pseudoscience. See, all he's doing is regurgitating what other peckerwoods like himself says. Okay, based on pseudoscience. So you mean to tell me that Walter Neves is a pseudoscientist? What an idiot. See, all he did was Google the information. He doesn't know this stuff. And he doesn't even know who the anthropologists are. Okay? He says, so he's saying that Walter Neves is a pseudoscientist. This lets you know his level of education. Okay? Coveting, be who you are. Stop coveting others' bloodlines. Like you know my bloodline. So again, it's idiots like this why I get upset. I get this all day. I get this all day. Okay? We don't even want to go into before the Red Road East, before this YouTube channel. Anyway, and then to get it from our own people, you know. But, you know, let me not. Let's get back to these slides, right? So where we left off at was this article, okay? And this is where I get upset. I give you all of these references. For someone to say, give the references. And we just left, I mean, all I've been doing was giving you this whole slide presentation of references. And I did make it clear that a lot of information that I have some of it they're not going to be able to do a Google search on. Okay? Did I not say that a lot of the information that the Moors had back in the days was oral history? And I showed you the lecturers who did the research to verify the oral history. And I showed you their table of contents and the references where you can find their works. Okay? And I also let you know that certain information that I have, you can't Google it. I am the Google search. Okay? So I'm sharing with you as someone who was on the scene. On the scene, like a sex machine. Wait a minute. James Brown. Right? So we left off with this article. Okay? This is a reference, is it not? I'm not screaming, okay, at anybody. I'm not getting upset. I'm just asking a question. Is this not an article? New York Amsterdam News is a newspaper, right? Is a New York newspaper, right? The New York Amsterdam News. Okay. January 4th to January 10th, 2001. I mean, I did give you that reference among the countless other references from other books that I mentioned in the previous clips before this one. Okay, so I just want y'all to bear witness when people make these comments in the comment section. I have witnesses out there. All right, so we left off here. I can't believe we're into a half an hour. I'm gonna have to cut it in 15 minutes. All right, that'll make it 45 minutes to be consistent, you know, with the time. So I'm gonna try to get through this quickly. Okay, and yeah, so this article is New York Amsterdam News. It's entitled "Were Original Americans Black Moors?" Mours. This is page 36 of that paper. So you can't say I didn't give you the reference. This is 2001. Okay? So I'm not going to read from the beginning. I'm going to read from where we left off at. If you want the beginning, you got to go back and listen and look at the clip before this one. So I'll go a little bit back. So it says here, Reverend Radine Amin-Ra, author of The Forgotten Truth Behind Racism in America, The Hidden Ancestral Identity of the Black American, Volume 1, agreed. She's agreeing with what the Empress said about us being aboriginal to the land. Okay? She said the new fertile land, the new fertile homeland, the Americas, was given to the Black American mound builders. We're down here, if you want to know where we are. See the arrow? American mound builders as promised land before the flood separated the East from the West. The East from the West. The mothers of today's Black American ancestors were delivered from the obscurity, darkness, and ignorance of the growing negative wave of consciousness changing to masculine domination, or the mind of the flesh, the ego, that was consuming the once fertile North Africa into a barren desert. Amin-Ra wrote, the Empress chimed in on a similar note. Our society is based on the woman envisioning. Boy, this is so small. Let me enlarge this a little bit. Boy, this is hard to see. By the woman envisioning the law and the man enforcing it, the Empress said. Not this machismo garbage that has regulated society to the lower planes of existence. In our world, the woman inherits the land, not the man. This world is upside down. Whites rule the land and man rules over woman, she explained. One man who organizes around a similar argument is Dr. Malachi Z. York, a.k.a. Amanubi. I can't even see this. Make it bigger. I can't see that. I'm a newbie. But anyway, either way, Dr. York. Y'all know who Dr. York is. All right. Leader of the United Nubian Nation of the Moors. He leads a community that is based in Eatonton, Georgia. He is building a replica of ancient Egypt there that sits on close to 500 acres, according to Brother Howard Jones, a.k.a. Nadirti Kefare. They teach that Nubian is derived from the word Nuba, in southern Sudan, which would include Uganda, Uganda, and Kenya. The root word for Nubian, and Nabi is Nub, meaning color inclining to black. Kinky or woolly-haired people. York wrote in his book, Let's Set the Record Straight. York described this thing keeps flipping to the wrong slide. Okay, all right. Pardon me there, this mouse is bugging out. York described the Olmec civilization, the oldest high culture in the Americas, as the original woolly-haired, dark olive people who originally came from Nuba of South and Central Africa. They arrived in the Americas long before the Christian era, but that would have been long after the arrival of those given the promise before the floods. Land wars are raging in the U.S. world courts for tribal recognition and sovereignty rights within former colonial and imposed borders. The classifications can transform a tribal group from poverty-stricken to filthy rich, according to Qualla Kathira Howard, a black Indian woman who was born on the Qualla Reservation in North Carolina. And shout out to Mother Qualla, or we know her as Sacagawea. Okay, that's one of our elders. All right. Haven't spoken with her in a while. So she says, the U.S. government is fighting hard to dissuade groups from reclaiming their sovereignty status and land. Let's see. Why does this keep doing this? And land. In a brief telephone interview from Schenectady, New York, Howard said only 150 of the 350 indigenous tribes in North America have been recognized, and only the Navajo and the Iroquois have been granted sovereignty status. In New York State, she said, the Oneida tribe signed a 100-year land lease with the U.S. government that has expired. They are in court because the Oneida want their land back, she said. According to Meduti, the mission of the Nubians is to. Oh, this thing won't go down. Come on, man. Jeez. I hate this stupid computer, man. According to Meduti, the mission of the Nubians is to teach their people in the Americas to stop referring to themselves as former slaves, because slavery was a legal institution in America, but kidnapping and torturing is unlawful. We have to be prepared to argue our cause with intelligence, he said. The Empress of the Washita they're talking about, the Empress, who includes in her family the Olmecs, Maya, Aztecs, Garifuna, Arawaks, Caribs, and many tribes of North America, said she was granted indigenous status by a UN non-governmental organization in 1993. She said she has addressed the world body as Empress of the Washita. Her claim to the land is based on what she called flaws in the implementation of the infamous Louisiana Purchase. She said the illegal land transfer violated bilateral treaties and international law when her 86,883 acres were included. In addition to land claim issues, the Empress, who is convalescing from a stroke at a facility near her son in California, is facing scrutiny from federal agencies tracking money. Her son Frederick said in an exclusive telephone interview from home, December 28th. Beyond these arguments, the many other voices are making a case for the fact that the entire United States sits on lands stolen mostly from a dark-skinned people. We should not be limited to Africa and the East. Our footprints are throughout the earth, and we cannot allow others to box us up and rip us off from our land, she stated. Okay? So, yeah, this is a powerful article. All right? And you see, you had different people that were interviewed coming from different groups. Okay? And all of these groups, you know, all of these groups, you can look up. Well, it's not just groups, like I said, Mother Koala, that's an individual. The Washita, you can get her information in the book. I would say get the book Return of the Ancient Ones. Okay. But yeah, that's in the next slide. Let me go to the next slide. Okay. So, giving you references here. Return of the Ancient Ones, that's the first book right here. All right. It's the front of the book. It's the back of the book. All right. And the back of her book, the 1993 United Nations Center for Human Rights recognized the Washita Dedugdamanja Moor Empire as the oldest indigenous group of people on the planet. And she gives information, about their registered project number, and this, that, and the other. She says, these Native American tribes are Moors, Washita, Yamasee, Iroquois, Cherokee, Choctaw, Blackfoot, Pequot, and Mohegan. All right. Then there's another Washita publication. This was written by Umar Shabazz Bey, called "We Are the Washita." All right. And this book is like a smaller version of this book, Return of the Ancient Ones. All right. Similar information. The Return of the Ancient Ones just has a lot more detail. It's a big book. All right. So we're looking at the timeline. Okay, it's another group that was on the scene back in the days, the Unknown Brothers. I don't know how many of y'all ever heard of the Unknown Brothers. Probably not many of you. All right. And these brothers here, this brother here, Brother Mahir Ill, who used to be on the lecture scene back in the days. Reggie Simmons, who is Professor Simmons' son. And Colin Oyibo, who is Dr. who's Dr. Gabrielle Oyibo's son. Okay, the only one whose picture I was able to get is Brother Mahir. All right, I haven't spoken to Brother Mahir in a while. We used to build all the time on the phone back in the days, but his number changed. I haven't spoken to him in decades. Anyway, so they used to put on a lecture series back in the days up in Harlem, okay? And this was another group of Moors, and they would invite people like Dr. Delbert Blair, Hakeem Bey, C. Freeman Ill. Okay, a lot of y'all know about C. Freeman Ill, okay? And they had some powerful lecturers coming through there, okay, up in Harlem. And like this brother here, Brother Mahir, he was a Moor, but he was always repping the indigenous culture, going to powwows and stuff like that, and he also dealt with, as a Moor, he also dealt with the Hebrew wisdom as well, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we're all of that. You know what I'm saying? So, it's about honoring your forebears. You know, see, a lot of people nowadays, they want to just be boxed into just one line of thought. And that's where the problem lies in. I'm just dealing with this. I don't want to hear anything else. You know, nothing else is relevant other than my dogma, my religious beliefs, or what I believe, to be our lineage or whatever, And the reality is that it's not that way, But yeah, I remember this brother, back in the days, and it was just him and a couple of others that I remember from the '90s that was repping the indigenous culture as well as the Moorish science. There was a lot of Moors on the scene, but as far as like dealing with the whole, dealing with the tribes and going to powwows and stuff like that, he was one of the only brothers back then, that was really doing that, So let's move on. Okay, so you had Dr. York, his movement, and he put out a book called Let's Set the Record Straight. Okay, and you had a lot of people that are new into this who got their first introduction to the aboriginal thing through this particular book, Let's Set the Record Straight. Okay, but again, even him, he was later on, because before his movement was just Islamic. Okay, they were called the Ansars, and they were out here in New York and Brooklyn. Okay, and they were Nubian Islamic Hebrews at that time. All right, and so later on they jumped onto the Moorish thing. Then they started moving on, dealing with comedics, Sufi wisdom. They made different. The ideology changed over time. See, I know because I was there, because those guys used to be on the corner dressed in all white, you know, and like during the early 90s, I was also studying, I was heavy into ancient Kemet, okay? So a little bit of background about myself. See, I was actually on the other side. I was actually very critical of the Moors. Okay, I was like on like an anti-Moorish thing. I was like, yo, these Moors are crazy. You know. Let me get rid of some of this ash here. Right. So yeah, I was anti the Moors. I was like, these Moors are crazy. All right. And so I was actually trying to disprove what the Moors were saying. But the more I researched, the more I found that the Moors were right on point. Okay. But yeah, I was into comedics. I used to take classes at the Ausera Set Society out in Brooklyn over on Bedford Place in Bed-Stuy. I go to, their new moon rituals and stuff like that, take the classes. They had a school there and everything, you know. And so I was also a book vendor. I'm still a book vendor. A lot of people know me from that too, as a book vendor. You know, I was a book distributor for years. A lot of people used to come to me for books. As a matter of fact, if you look at the old videos and you hear the lecturers and stuff, a lot of times you'll hear them say such and such. If you want books that I was talking about, go see so and so in the back. A lot of times they be talking about me. I'd be the one, with the books and stuff. Not that I was the only one, but I'd be one of the main vendors there that had the metaphysical books. And so yeah, I was into the whole comedic. So I get into debates with these guys. These Ansars, Dr. York's followers. All the time. So that's how I know I can tell you from being there. These guys didn't always have this ideology. You know. But what's interesting about Dr. York is that I first heard about Noble Drew Ali through Dr. York, because he wrote a book back in the days called Who is Noble Drew Ali? And that was the first time I had ever heard of Noble Drew Ali. Okay? And so, he knew what time it was. But, like I say, he was just dealing with the Islamic perspective, um, and not so much the whole nationality aspect and all of that. So, let me see. I think I'm going to cut it here, because, and this is part 5, I think. This is the 5th one. But, I really wanted to spend some time apologizing to the people in the comment section and coming down on everybody. Again, I'm just giving you a background of, where this rage comes from. It comes from years. You have no idea what I've gone through. All right? No idea. Let's see. Let me do one more slide. Okay? This is another brother here that was on the scene. Robert Strong Rivers. Okay? And he had a site called Lost Feather that was dropping a lot of indigenous knowledge, okay? And in December of 1992, Robert founded the organization Broken Arrow, which focused on the African link to Native American culture. Broken Arrow was groundbreaking for many blacks had for was groundbreaking for many blacks had an idea of Native American ancestry but lacked the actual knowledge of their ancestry. Broken Arrow was a research organization to help those discover their true roots. After graduating from Alabama State University, Robert moved to Virginia in 1993, where he took his tribal oath and tribal council principle Zadok and accepted the name Katabaye, which translate as Strong River People. In 1994, he renamed his organization Broken Arrow, the Indigenous Peoples of America, Reconciliation of Diverse Tribes and Nations. The organization was created to mediate the racial, social, and religious differences between red, black, and white Native Americans and help close the gap of Native American segregation. Robert began creating the website Lost Feather in 1997 as an educational website for college students interested in learning true Native American history. Okay? And a lot of people, who were who got into the Aboriginal movement, now, we're definitely checking out Lost Feather. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at what a lot of them are saying, you can see where, they followed a lot of his material, okay, and left out certain things, okay, particularly the part about Moors, okay. But as you can see, this is a brother here, and as you can see, he had no problem with the fact that we're Moors, okay. The Amur Moors, our true identity. This is coming from his literature, from Lost Feather. The Moors were the people who built the Great Pyramids all over South America, Peru, Canada, Alaska, and Georgia that scattered all throughout North America along the Mississippi River, and its tributaries are found mounds built out of tons and tons of earth. The people who built them were called mound builders, and they were the descendants of the Malian Moor Olmecs. These Moors eventually migrated to North America from Mexico and became known as Washita, Yamasee, and the Ben Ishmael tribe. The Ben Ishmael tribe was a collection of what is now Lenape, Wampanoag, and Nanticoke Indians who migrated to Indiana and Illinois and referred to themselves as Moors, even though the United States government continued to classify them as Negroes in order to strip them of their indigenous rights. Okay, this is all coming from his site. Okay. Lost Feather. And he's talking about the Washita here. Lost Feather. Washita. What about the slave trade? Much of the so-called African slave trade was fabricated. There was no trade. An independent source showing The so-called Indians on the eastern seaboard, also called Terra Nova, were Moors, is a book called Africans and Native Americans by Jack D. Forbes. He shows in the book how many so-called Native American Indians were sold into slavery in Africa and Europe. This is the opposite direction in which we were taught the slave trade went in. These Native Americans or Indians were classified as Negroes and blacks in the slave books of Seville, Spain, and elsewhere. On page 29, he says, slaves from Terra Nova show up in the slave markets of Seville and Valencia very soon after 1500. People in Valencia during the period of 1516, we find in 1503 Miguel, Man, in 1505 Juan and Pedro, in 1507 Antonio and Juan Amarco, in 1515 Ali, now Melchor, in Catalina. They were all classified as Negroes. If we were first brought to North America around 1619 or even 1555 for that matter, how were they taking slaves from Newfoundland to Europe? Keep in mind that one of the Native Americans had the name Ali and were classified as Negro once they reached Valencia. And how did a Native American in 1515 have the Moorish name Ali? Okay, and this same, you find this same, pretty much this, what you find in this slide here, you also find in Hakim Bey's Journals of the Moorish Paradigm, which was even before this site, you know. So I'm just showing you the lineage, you know, of how this information came to the surface, you know, how it progressed, you know, and how it changed over time, okay? And Jose Pimienta Bay also, you know, always talked about this particular book and talked about Jack Forbes, you know, as well, you know. So, like I said, Moors have been talking about this stuff, you know. And, all right, we'll get into that later. I'm going to cut it here, all right? So, I think we're halfway through. Yeah, we're a little past the halfway mark as far as the slide presentations. We're like 2/3 of a way into the slides. All right, so there's more. But yeah, I really just wanted to apologize to anyone who was offended by, you know, what I said. And oh, there was another comment that I wanted to look at as well. Let's see. Let's see. Give me 1 second. So in the last video, we were looking at some comments, and this guy, Carlton Walker, who I addressed, he left another comment about an hour ago. And he says, yes, some of my family, you know, y'all could go back to the last video to see the previous comment that he made, but this is picking up from there. Says, yes, some of my, because I had posted some questions to him, so he did reply. All right, well, let me go back. Okay. He says, this is from the other day. Thank you, brother, for explaining the idea of history, but at the same time, not all of us are Moors. My father, who taught me about indigenous ancestors from both my mother's side and his side, explained to me that I am indigenous. My father never knew nothing about the Moors Temple or anything like this, or even the Aboriginal movement to this day. It depends on your family's history. You really have to do your family's history and compare documentation. Moors are from North Africa, Morocco. Julia, Tanisha, how come you guys don't want to claim your status from over there? That's your nationality. When you claim you're more from over there, or what about claiming your nationality, about claiming nationality of Europe at the same time, but you guys are not indigenous to America, regardless of the European used, regardless if the European used to term more, because they were originally referring to the color of the indigenous people. So he used no punctuation in there, so that's why it's reading like that. My biggest thing to ask you, brother, is you're already Zalagi, Cherokee. That is a nation. What is your nationality? Why that no. The biggest thing I ask you, brother, is you're already Zalagi, Cherokee. That is a nation. That is your nationality, not more. Okay? I already debunked that in the last slide. Okay? But I'll read his reply. Yeah, I debunked that in the last video. I said, I appreciate your comment. However, you are ignorant of factual history. If you paid attention to anything that I said in this presentation, I told you numerous times that there are always individuals who knew that we are aboriginal to this land. Question, how old is your father? How old are you? How far back does your family surname go? Once you answer these questions, I will give you a reply that will bring it all home. If you don't reply within one day, I will assume that your argument is moot. Furthermore, I already told you in part 3 of this presentation that the Washita was recognized by the UN as the oldest indigenous people on the planet, and they are Moors. I'm not going to say what else I said. It's not so nice. Well, it's not that bad. It said, see, Negroes don't pay attention. Your argument has already been debunked. But answer those questions, and I will give you some more, M-O-O-R, of this work. So he replies, yes, some of my families go back to the old roles. But if you're indigenous, be indigenous, not more. If want to be more, then claim more status and stay in North Africa. See, he still didn't answer my questions. Okay? Because as I told y'all in the last video, if he answers those questions, I'm going to checkmate him. Okay? He didn't answer. I asked him, how old are you? How old is your father? And how far back does your family surname go? Okay. The only one he answered was the last one. He says, some of my family's surnames go back to the old roads. Okay, so that's not very long. Okay, that's not very long. You're talking about the 1800s. Okay, that's not that long ago. All right, so, and he still didn't answer my other questions because he was talking about, you know, what his father told him, you know, and this, that, and the other. Again, how old is your father and how old are you? Answer those questions, Carlton. Then I've got something for you. But I did reply to this one. And my reply was, like I said in the last video, reply to him, you are indigenous. well, I didn't say the next part what I'm getting ready to say, but yeah, you are indigenous, which means you are a perpetual slave according to the doctrine of discovery. I'm a mound builder. I predate you. All of the old books written by anthropologists state that the mound builders, the ancient ones, were here before them. So just show some respect to me as one who was on this land before you. We, the Moorish mound builders, need for you to put a little respect on our name. Okay? And that's that. All right? Let's see, who else? Back, some more comments. There's another one that I wanted to bring up. Okay, this one here. Yeah. Matter of fact, let me just go into the video so that we can see this a little bigger. Okay. Let's see here. Mark D. This is from Mark D. And this was a very very interesting comment, constructive. It says, to say the Moors created the aboriginal movement, isn't that kind of taking away from the Black Indian elder activists that had been telling us who we were? Are you mainly referring to the online cyber abo movement? To be quite honest, brother, I thought you were the first one to start the movement online. Your channel is older than these other guys' channels. I don't know any Aboriginal Black Indian channels that predate the Red Road East. Okay, thank you for your comment. And yeah, I was around before these guys. But the Red Road East is not my first YouTube channel. Okay, the Red Road East is a television program. Okay, and I upload the archive shows onto YouTube under the Red Road East. That's the name of the television show. But even before the Red Road East, I had another YouTube channel, and also, I would be interviewed by people who uploaded videos that I was on back in the days. At that time, I had no type of tech savvy computer knowledge or anything like that, So other people, would upload videos and stuff like that. I had no, even that channel, that was created by, it wasn't created by me, as far as setting it up, on YouTube. So, yeah. So, when I speak, so in answer to his question, am I referring to, when I say the Aboriginal movement, am I referring to the online cyber abo movement? Okay. Yes, but my comments are not directed towards those guys who have the cyber channels. My comments are more in response to people who leave comments in my comment section who follow those guys. Okay, because a lot of those guys, I subscribe to their channel. I support them. And I got no beef with them. It's more so the little peons that follow them and leave a whole bunch of negative comments in my comment section. Okay, so that's what prompted me to do this series on the lineage, so that these guys who keep coming on my channel and leaving comments with misinformation, because a lot of them are millennials, and they just discovered that they were Indian like less than 10 years ago. And as I said before, if you have less than 15 years, if you don't at least have 15 years in this, then we can't even talk. Straight up, we can't even talk, because you were not even there. When all this stuff was popping off, you weren't even born. Okay, so conversation over. All right, so I'm doing this series so that I can show you the lineage, the progression, what the original school of thought was, and how it progressed over time and became repackaged and presented, okay, to the millennials. Okay, and in the next slides, I'm going to show you the progression and how it started to change. Okay, and so yeah, so my reply was, yes, I've been around before these guys, but the Red Road East is not my first YouTube channel, and my comments are not directed towards them in particular, as much as it is towards those who follow them and have been leaving ignorant comments on my channel anytime they see me wearing a fez or a turban, or if I have a guest on my show who is a Moor. This is what has prompted me to begin my series, laying the foundation of the lineage. I'm not sure which elder you're referring to, however. As I've stated in the presentation, there have always been individuals who have told us who we are. But as far as a movement, cyber or otherwise, none predate the Moors. There is no literature, group-wise or individual, detailing our Aboriginal experience from a historical, geographical, chronological, and civic perspective before the Moors. It's all about what can be proven. Anyone can make a claim, but a claim must be proven. I don't know whether or not I was the first online to bring this information, but I can say that my online activity began somewhere around 2006, 2007, somewhere around that time frame. Okay, that's just as far as online, If you continue to watch the series, I will also mention Indian elders who have spoken about who we are throughout the years. But these people do not predate the Moors. Later on in the second series, I will go into the ancient Moors of this land. So this particular part of the series, I'm dealing with the Aboriginal movement in contemporary times. Okay? And later on in the second series, I'll go into the ancient Moors of this land in more detail. And also, I left a comment to the good brother Mark D. If you have some information regarding any individuals or movements who you feel may have come before the Moors, do feel free to share it, and I will give my input. Okay, and that goes for anybody. If y'all have any information of that you feel may be earlier, you can leave that information in the comment section, and I'll look at it and I'll critique it. All right. And on that note, I'm gonna close out because it's way past midnight. All right, and I gotta work in a few hours. All right. So until the next time, do the dog go home eat.